Hello, good people. Welcome to our show. Hello, bad people. Welcome to our show. Hello, welcome. Because today we are going to discuss about very important topic about personal branding. It's tough to grow today. It's tough to get results. It doesn't matter if you want to grow your corporate brand, you still need to have your personal brand that will help you, like Elon Musk can help Tesla, like Bill Gates, like many others well-known people because of personal branding. I'm so excited to discuss a lot more with Philip VanDusen. How are you?
I'm good, Anatolia. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, big pleasure. Want to learn more. For me, it's very important, as I mentioned, and I grow my personal branding as well. And it can help to increase trust for my projects. It can help to build the audience, to grow audience, to cooperate with great experts who can speak on my podcast, who can we have some cohesive projects with some specialists. I love it, and I think it's important to any projects to have your strong brand recognition. Philip, before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and anything that can help our listeners to learn more about you.
Sure. Well, Anatolia, I've had a 25 plus year career in branding and design. I actually started off as a fine artist, as a painter. And in my early 30s, I went into the fashion industry and worked my way up through a number of companies. I eventually became the vice president of design at Old Navy. I was there for about 11 years. And then I jumped over to the branding agency side and worked for a couple different agencies, including Landor Associates, which is a globally known agency. And then I've also been the vice president of design at PepsiCo. And about 8 years ago, I left PepsiCo and decided to go out on my own and start my own brand consultancy. I'd been building Fortune 100 brands for 20 years and decided that I wanted to work with small and medium sized businesses and be able to make an impact faster and actually have, a kind of a more intimate relationship with my clients. And so I started a virtual agency, so to speak. It's me as a principal, and I work with a range of partners, building teams to work whatever projects that I land. And it's a great model. And in order to build my agency business, I started very early building my own personal brand because when I left corporate, I had nothing. I had a 2-page black and white website. That was it. And a business card that was for a company I didn't work for anymore. I mean, that's all I had. And so I had to build a client roster and get people to become aware of me and understand my authority and realize how much value I could bring to them. And so I started doing content marketing and started a newsletter, which I ran for, is still running, but I started it and put it out every 2 weeks for about 6 months. And then I started a YouTube channel. And about a year after that, I started a podcast. And since then, I've built a brand strategy course, which I sell. I've built a mastermind community for creative professionals that I currently run. And it's been very successful. And I've learned an incredible amount along the way. It was kind of like everything before I went independent was one frame of thinking and going about my business. And then in the last 8 years, it's been absolutely completely different. It's been very successful. I mean, my YouTube channel has 185,000 subscribers. My podcast is up to 125 episodes. My mastermind community is running strong and people are loving it. And my podcast as well. And so that's kind of what I do. I focus on helping people build personal brands, business brands through branding, design, and content marketing.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Yeah. Great experience. And Philip, I have a bunch of questions. Basically, I have a
Let's
lot
do
of
it.
questions. Yeah, but I want to start with this question about the difference between cooperating with big companies. You mentioned that you helped companies, Fortune 500 companies, and today you can help SMB. So I'm interested about the difference. Can you tell why big companies need personal branding, like we know Elon Musk, like we know many other great entrepreneurs, and they build personal brands. But I know some companies, by the way, good companies, great revenue, but founders don't like the idea to build personal brand. I think it depends on your personality. Can you tell the difference when we need it, when we don't need it, and do we need to force yourself if you don't want it?
Yeah. Well, what I knew nothing about personal branding when I was in the corporate world, and I didn't do any personal branding when I was in the corporate world for other people or for myself. But I would say that the one thing that personal branding, how it impacts large corporations, is that people trust people. They don't trust brands, and they particularly don't trust big brands. And so when you have a human face that you can associate to a brand that has a level of friendliness, personality, authority, attractiveness, it humanizes a brand. And so that is why really big brands that are super successful generally have some sort of human being that is visible and present, and active in human life that represents that brand. Steve Jobs for Apple, Bill Gates for Microsoft, um, as you said, Elon Musk. There's
Mhm.
Richard Branson for Virgin. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And when you have a large, like I used to work for P&G, do a lot of branding for them, and they have a portfolio of 25 or 30 different product brands. And P&G is a tiny little, they're a house of brands. So P&G is a little logo on the back of all their products, but P&G has no face. No one knows who P&G is. And so they struggle with that human factor. And generally, what companies do is they associate or develop some sort of personality around their product. So let's take Geico for instance. So Geico, gigantic corporation, it's in a very commodity space, insurance. So it's unexciting and very boring, and all the companies offer the same stuff. How do you differentiate yourself, and how do you add a face to that company? And they developed the Geico Gecko, right? Who's got a
Mhm.
British accent. He's very cute. He's welcoming. And so that is a level of brand personality or personal branding essentially, but it's around a character. And there are lots of companies that do that. And so developing some sort of a character or personality of a human being or a human face behind a large brand is important to warming that brand up to, the population, to the possible customer base. Now, your other part of your question was, what is this value to founders or entrepreneurs or people who are in startups? And a lot of people who start up don't want to be the face. They may not feel comfortable in front of the camera or feel that they have a personality that really represents a brand. And that's totally fine, especially at the beginning, because your product or your service is the hero. But when it comes down to it, eventually there needs to be some sort of human presence behind a brand in order to create that humanity, that brand personality. And it's easiest to do if you have a human being that represents that. So if it's not the founder, him or herself, then they might need to develop either a character or a representative, like, any of the what's her name? Flo from the advertise. What was that? The insurance. What was,
Mhm.
who Flo is, right? What insurance company is she from?
Mhm.
It's skipping my mind right now.
Yeah.
And but so having a marketing character or spokesperson that human beings can relate to and associate with a brand is really important.
Yeah, got it. I agree. I agree. And Philip, I wanna ask about where to start. For example, when I decided to grow my personal brand, and I started in 2020, and I registered my account, or decided to pay more attention to my social media accounts everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. And you mentioned that you have YouTube channel, you have podcast, you have a loyal audience almost everywhere. And what I did, I can say that that was a good idea, because I decided to do as Gary Vee always preaches to us about be everywhere, and I did. I spent time on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere, even TikTok. Then my best results were like 5, 10 followers a day, a few hundred views, nothing special. And I switched all my attention to LinkedIn alone. I even stopped repurposing content to other social media, and my results grew because I spent time only on LinkedIn. I engaged with others. I built my audience. I created content. Even I understand you can repurpose. It takes like 5, 10 minutes, but you can lose 5, 10 minutes, if you repurpose content on other social media. And if you have no loyal audience, it's tough to get results on other social media. So can you tell about focusing? How it's important to start in one place, and when it's the right time will come to extend to other social media accounts?
Yeah, and it's all you brought up a really, really good point, and I'm glad you did that. And your personal experience with it is exactly what people experience, or is they try to be everywhere and they end up being very shallow everywhere, and they don't really make an impact because it's, social media is where everyone's drinking from a fire hose. There is so much content now, and so unless you focus your energy on one single platform and go really deep into it, you're going to be invisible wherever you show up. And the other thing I would just say is, yes, and I congratulate you for even pulling back on your repurposing and just focusing entirely on a single platform, your podcast and LinkedIn, because, and you said repurposing could take 5 minutes. The thing is, repurposing doesn't take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Repurposing takes days. And the more you
Yeah.
try to repurpose it across different platforms, it's a real time suck. And I personally struggled with that for much longer than I should have before I hired a VA to do it for me. And so repurposing is important, and it's an easy way to get to a broader range of platforms without a tremendous amount of work. But I wouldn't recommend doing it yourself. But to your point, when I counsel people about building a personal brand, I generally say, think about who your customer is. What is the value you're bringing to the table? How are you trying to establish your authority? And decide on the platform that's best for you. And go deep into that one single platform for 6 months to a year until you have really cracked that nut and started to get a following and some traction there before you even think of expanding. And so the way you're approaching it is exactly how people should approach it. And it gives you a chance to understand the platform, develop a range and volume of content that is significant because you're not spreading yourself too thin. And it also, and this is a really important one that we'll get to a little bit when we talk about this tool that I've developed called the personal brand wheel, is that engagement is just as important as content, particularly on LinkedIn. And I'd love to tell you a story actually of one of my colleagues who just had a really unlocking experience on LinkedIn. And that is that engagement, commenting on content is just as important, especially on LinkedIn, as posting content. Richard Moore, an amazing salesperson and personal brand who I've had on my show, has talked about, he's a LinkedIn expert, and he says, and he had this great quote that I always quote him, which was, comments are content too. And they really are. And this colleague of mine who recently, she posts a lot of content on LinkedIn. She recently started putting a lot more effort into commenting and engaging with people on their posts. And she noticed that LinkedIn was recognizing her activity on the platform. The algorithms work behind her backs, right? And noticed her activity and was promoting her posts more on LinkedIn because of her level of engagement on other people's posts. And other people were also sharing her posts more because of the engagement she was showing them. And her following and her analytics have skyrocketed because of this shift in how she's going about working on the LinkedIn platform.
Yeah, I wrote an article about commenting because I researched this topic, and I spoke with a few big influencers who have great engagement, plus 1,000 comments on each post. And I asked them how they got this result, and they replied to me commenting. If you comment on other posts, relevant posts, people usually read comments. If you share extra value, if you help them, uh, all of them need more value. They just want to get more value from you because you can help them. Then they can open your profile to check your content, and it helps to get more engagement. It's simple. It's not like LinkedIn can recognize that you are super active to comment. It's because you help someone who wanna get this value, open your profile, started to follow you, can engage with your posts, because value is the fuel of any engagement. If you bring value, if people need more this value, it's simple, so people will follow. Yeah, and I love commenting, and for me it's more important to provide quality than quantity. I remember when I decided to grow my LinkedIn, so basically I wrote 80% of my time comments and 20% to create content. And I started with a few comments a day. That was tough in the beginning, and my best results were like 400 comments a day, all manually written. And that was simple. That was tough to start, but it's possible if you do it. Plus a few comments a day, plus a few comments. When you leave this 2-3 sentences, you can get great results. It works well, but it's better to pay attention to quality, to help more, to bring more value. Don't criticize others. So I love commenting. I agree with you. It's a great tool if you do it right. If you generate just with AI, I'm not sure you can get great results. But even if you have a lot of mistakes, so it works well. But bring more value. Yeah, I love it, love it. Philip, can you tell how to choose the right social media? Okay, if we need to start in one social media or in one place, you have YouTube channel, you have podcast, and how to choose the first place?
Yeah, well, actually, I remembered who the spokesperson Flo was.
Uh-huh.
She's from Progressive Insurance. So that brain
Oh,
fart.
okay, okay,
I had to
got it.
circle back on that one.
Thank you.
I wanted to make one more comment about commenting. Like, I have these graphic design trends videos, which always are my best performing videos every year. And one year, one of those was picked up by a very major website, and it went viral, and it got over 1 million views. And in a period of 6 weeks, it got probably 10,000 comments.
Wow.
And I answered every single one of those comments. In fact, in the first 3 or 4 years of my having a YouTube channel, I answered every single comment that I got until I had more comments coming in than I could personally manage. But I strongly believe that YouTube's algorithm saw my engagement on my re-engagement from people who are engaging on my posts and promoted my videos more in search because of that. So not only are you're commenting on other people's posts, but when people comment on your posts, you want to re-engage back with them so they can feel seen. Everyone wants to feel seen. They want to feel seen and they want to feel heard. And if they've taken a moment of their time to comment and congratulate your post or say they were interested in it, respond, even if it's like, thank you so much for reading my content and commenting on my post. That was really interesting. Like, it could be 2 or 3 sentences. And just so people feel appreciated for their appreciating you. So that I think is really important. Now, to segue to your question, which was like, how do you choose what platform is best for you? There's a couple different things that you have to take into consideration. One is your customer target. Who are you trying to reach? What platforms do they hang out on? right? So you are a you deal in the B2B space a lot, right? So, and you're also in a very business marketing mindset. Where do business and marketing people hang out? They hang out on LinkedIn. Where do small and medium sized businesses and founders and people who are building businesses hang out? They hang out on LinkedIn. If you were doing a ton of, marketing, business building, and brand strategy, what I say, go to TikTok. Unless you're going to dance about your brand strategy, don't go to TikTok. Like, should you do YouTube shorts? I've been watching a lot of YouTube shorts recently, and YouTube shorts are following in the footsteps of TikTok. It's entertainment content. It's not value-based, cerebral, actionable business level content, right? It's a
Yeah.
different, kind of medium with a different purpose to it. And so you have to think about what's the platform where your people are hanging out. If you're trying to reach baby boomers and, old Gen Xers, Facebook's probably a really great place. If you're trying to reach people who are looking to educate themselves, YouTube is the biggest educational platform in the world. It's the second largest search engine in the world next to Google, and Google owns YouTube. So they are married to each other and they promote each other in each other's search. So YouTube, I think personally, is if you're going to get into content, go YouTube, because YouTube is also, video is taking over the world, and video is also a format that's most easily repurposable, meaning you can take the audio from a video, you can turn it into a podcast, you can take that audio and turn it audiograms, you can transcribe the videos and turn it into blog posts. I mean, it has a lot of legs in terms of repurposing. But so you want to think about who your audience is and where they hang out. And then also, what is that platform's medium of choice? So let's say you do a lot of slideshows or you do a lot of writing and you like the format of carousels. There are a lot of carousels on LinkedIn. People really consume carousels a lot. They share them. They're very shareable. They're easy to tell a story and provide value through. You can use carousels on Instagram too. Would I do carousels on Facebook? Probably not. Would I do video carousels on YouTube? No. So you have to think about the medium that you're also going into and what's the best platform for that medium. Podcasting and LinkedIn also go really well together, because an older demographic, which is generally the people who are really leveraging LinkedIn, they have a tendency to like to listen as a format to consume more than watch. So the demographic of most of the viewers on YouTube go from anywhere, from infancy all the way up to about 35, and then it falls off a cliff. So if you're trying to reach people who are 35 to, or 40 or above, YouTube's probably not your place, or at least that's not where you're going to get the volume of viewership. It would be better to post those videos natively on LinkedIn than it would be to post them natively on YouTube. So I think it's platform where your people are hanging out and the appropriate platform for the type or the medium of content that you're putting out.
Yeah, I agree, but I want to add something to
Yeah,
this
please.
point. Yeah, and I learn why people give up. Because, for example, let's imagine my audience is on Instagram, but I don't like this platform. My wife loves Instagram. She can spend all day on Instagram. My son can open Instagram, but he prefers TikTok. And I can spend time on LinkedIn. And what I found, when you know that your audience in specific social media, but you don't like it, you can find your audience is at any another social media, even on TikTok. My friend has grandma, and when grandma decided to learn about TikTok, why all grandchildren spend time on TikTok, and after that she can't stop watching these videos, because TikTok has a billion users, can satisfy any intent, and it's not like B2B is not good for TikTok. Almost all big brands on TikTok, you can even create content for B2C on LinkedIn. It's up to you. A billion people on LinkedIn. You need to find your format. And for me, it's very important to enjoy what you do. If you love it, if you are willing to spend time on social media, you can get results. But if you hate it, leave it. Don't care about your audience, or hire someone who can help with that. But I'm not sure it's a good idea to spend time on social media where you don't like to spend time, because you can learn intent, you can learn content that will provide results. It takes time to comment, to engage with other posts, to find your format. And yeah, just wanna add this one: you need to enjoy the process. Without having fun, it's tough. It's really tough to get any results. So what do you
I
think,
want I
brother?
want to add to something you said about I completely agree with you. There are aspects of different audiences on every platform. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm on YouTube, and even though the demographics there are very heavily 35 and below, I get 85% of my new clients and my new clients are 35 and above, right? They're business owners or small to medium sized business owners. They find me on YouTube and they come to my agency and they become clients. I was at Social Media Marketing World last year in February, and there was a presentation that was done by a woman who specializes in Excel spreadsheets, right? How boring content can an Excel spreadsheet be?
yeah,
Like, what can you do about Excel spreadsheets? So, and what platform would you think would be the best platform for Excel spreadsheets, right? Probably LinkedIn. She's on TikTok and she's built this audience of like 1 million people because she's done these really funny, really engaging dancing about Excel spreadsheet macros and all these different tricks and hacks that you can use for Excel. And she's killing it on TikTok
yeah.
about Excel spreadsheets. And that
Nice.
just goes to show that depending on how you approach your content, you can leverage your or revoice your content in a way that's appropriate for the platform that you're on, if you're inventive and if you're creative enough about it, and if you, like you said, if you love what you're doing. And she
Yeah.
absolutely loves dancing about Excel spreadsheets. So it totally works for her.
Yeah, love it, love it. Yeah. By the way, on TikTok, you don't need to dance and sing if you can't. So you can
Yeah.
create content about spreadsheet. And you remind me my conversation with Jim Edwards, and he worked in Business Insider 10 years. He started on this company from scratch. Then company was sold for $500 million, great success. And he was one of top managers. And he told me that success of Business Insider depends on creating non-boring content. Basically, business is boring, yeah, but Business Insider creates engagement content, attractive content by sharing value. Of course, value is important, but they found the way how to create content that people want to consume, because you can provide valuable insights, you can help a lot. People bounce fast. Nobody
Oh,
cares if it's boring. So, yeah, it's very important. And Philip, can you tell about finding ideas? How to find ideas to create content for your audience? Because you know, personally, I don't like best practices. If I'm not good with filming, why I need to film videos if it works for someone? So can you lead my audience in the right way when to find the right format?
uh, for how to find ideas for content.
Yeah, ideas and content format. Yeah, two questions.
Yeah, well, in terms of ideas, you have to think about what is the value that you're bringing and what
Hmm.
do you know? What is that Venn diagram between the value that you're going to deliver and what you know and what you want to develop authority in? And so figuring out that kind of personal brand positioning statement about who you are, what you're delivering, why you're better, why you're different, what the transformation is that you're trying to achieve in the people who are consuming your content. That's what's going to drive your ideation around it. And I was just talking to a colleague, and we were actually working on a content development strategy, ideation strategy. Just yesterday, we were talking about it. And we kind of came up with essentially 3 pillars to think about. One is educational. So, how are you going to educate people about what you know? Share what you know in a very unguarded way. And in doing that, people start to realize how much you know and how you are an authority in what you know. The next pillar is promotional. So one of the things you can't forget is that the reason why you're doing content in the first place is so people will come to you for business, right? Unless you're just doing it to tell the world that you know everything. So you have to remember that within that is a call to action. I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning when I started my YouTube videos. I did my first 75 YouTube videos and never had a call to action in any of them. Not even like go to my website. Like I hadn't figured it out yet. So you have to, in your content, weave in a level of promotion, whether that's something as simple as having your URL in the slideshow that you're doing, or mentioning, please visit my website, and, in the URL, or whether it's a call to action like download our free lead magnet, or view our free webinar, or learn more about us. So there's a promotional aspect around how you're producing your content. And then there's also the personal. And this is kind of what it brings back to what we were talking about in personal branding, is that what is your personal experience? People relate to people and people's stories. They need to see themselves in the stories that you're telling. And the easiest stories to tell are your own personal stories, because you know what they are. You've lived it, right? So personal stories like who you used to be, what were your struggles, what were the transformations that you achieved, what were your wins, who are you now as a result of those transformations? Who do you want to become? Because even after transformations, we want to continue to grow. Telling those stories so people can relate and see themselves in your stories are what attract people to you and what gathers their attention. Everybody, it's like the Wizard of Oz, right? Everyone wants to see the man behind the curtain. You want to see how things work, how the levers are pulled. So as you are sharing that educational content, you want to also layer in a layer of personal experience, because it's those personal experiences and those emotions around those transformations that help people see themselves in your content. Does that help?
Yeah, of course, 100%.
I think
Love
I
it, love
missed the
it.
second part of your question. What was the second part of your question?
How to choose your style? I mean, like, for example, what I see when some people can try to replicate best practices. I mean, like, let's imagine you film videos, but you don't like filming videos. You like writing, and for me, it's very important to consider your strong side. If you like writing, then write. Seth Godin and Stephen King don't film content for TikTok. They don't care about this content. They love to write. They pay attention to their strong side. So I think, yeah, my question was about finding your best style if you don't know something like this.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think that that's to a certain extent you have to experiment. You have to
yeah,
experiment and try
of
a
course.
bunch of things and see what feels comfortable. I'm a big proponent of kind of starting. The biggest challenge that people have is starting. It's they don't want to put themselves out there in a way that they can be seen or judged. It's the
Yeah,
biggest scare factor. And so what I like to do is just try to get people over that hump of just starting. The
yeah,
first blog post I ever posted was, within a few months of my going solo. And I wrote an article and I posted on Google Blogger, of all things. That's how dated this is. And that platform doesn't even exist anymore. And I wrote this article. I spent, weeks wordsmithing this article. I posted it. It was my very first blog post. And of course, I was sweating as I hit post, and no one saw it. No one read it, right? Because I had no audience. But it allowed me to get over that hump of actually creating a thought piece, a blog post, and hitting publish and getting it up there. And that moved me into developing and writing regularly and posting a newsletter, which I did for 6 months. And when I got comfortable with that, then I started taking some of those thoughts and what I was learning about what I was sharing and doing YouTube videos. My first YouTube videos, I was petrified about posting something. And if you look back, if you sort my YouTube videos by date and look at some of the first 25 videos, they're horrible. The lighting is horrible. The video is horrible. The sound is horrible. I'm nervous. My mouth is dry. I'm stuttering, right? It's like they're bad videos. And everybody has to start in a bad place, and you evolve and you grow and get more comfortable over time. But I started with writing, and then I went to video, and eventually I went to podcasting. And you might have thought that podcasting would have been easier, but for me, for some reason, it's easier for me to talk when I see somebody, or even when I'm seeing myself when I do live streams. It's easier to talk to somebody than it is to talk to just a microphone in a room by itself.
Yeah.
So it was easier for me to go from writing to video to podcasting. So do what you're comfortable with. Do what the lightest lift is for you in the beginning. That might be something as simple as like doing a single image, quote on Instagram. Just like one sentence,
Yeah.
something inspirational, something motivational, and post it on Instagram. Then move into like slideshows and turn that thought thing into like 10 different slides and post it on LinkedIn. Start by writing, move yourself into other mediums, and do it as you evolve and grow, and see what feels good, see what you like, see what medium sits well with you. I
Nice.
mean, one
Yeah.
of the reasons why I also had to do YouTube videos is because I'm a graphic designer, right? I'm in a visual industry. So being able to show people what I was talking about was very important. So podcasting didn't make as much sense to me because I wasn't able to really kind of show or talk about design work.
Nice, nice. I am glad that you bring all this information to the table because people are impatient. They want to get results from the first attempt. All my first attempts are terrible, even worse that you had experience, because I remember, for example, when I started PR, I built high expectations. Oh, I can win this well because I paid $6,000 for one press release and distribution. $6,000. But my company needed 12 press releases a week. 12 press releases. And so what I did, I paid this money, but that was tough. And I started to write myself. I wrote a bunch of press releases. I pitched all of them. I got 0 mentions, 0 results, nothing. But I learned how it works. I learned the process. Then I hired specialists who can write great press releases. I hired specialists who can distribute them. I learned about all these tools. And today we got mentions on CNN, Bloomberg, Business Insider, investing.com, CoinDesk, big websites, really big websites, because of knowing the process, because of failing. So we failed, learned, and for me, failing it's education. You can't create anything good without failing. And I remember when Mr. Beast said about YouTube videos, he told that it's really I don't know, like a few people in the world can film first video that will win results. It's almost impossible for ordinary people, including Mr. Beast. And he spent like 18 months to get first 1,000 subscribers. But
yeah, he put out 150 videos before he had like 3,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't know that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And it's better to create, as Mr. B said to us, to film 100 bad videos. If you film 100 bad videos, if you write 100 bad articles, if you record 100 bad podcasts, you can acquire experience. You can improve a little bit, slightly, step by step, video by video, content by content, and you can acquire experience to craft your content, to improve your content, to get results. And you mentioned that you didn't submit even call to action in your 75 videos. Wow, 75 videos, a lot of job. And I see when people try to sell from the first video, why you need to do it? Just share value, breathe value. When you have a loyal audience, you can sell. But if you have no audience, why you need to sell anything? Pay attention to value. So create value. Yeah, I love it.
One of the things you said I thought was really important is that you bought this list, right? You got no results from it, but you did all of this work, writing the press releases and doing all that stuff. And you were doing that with no audience, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, you bought a list, but no one was listening, right? And I mean, the thing about doing content, and this is the hurdle about people getting scared about starting, is they think that everyone's watching them and everyone's going to judge them as soon as they do anything. And the thing is, this is what people have to realize about content, is when you start creating content, no one is watching. No one is there. You have zero audience. So you can work through and learn your craft and explore and kind of realize where you're good, where you're not, what you have to improve when no one's watching. And then slowly over time, your audience will build. And by then, you will have built up some skills and knowledge and ability to produce better stuff. And you have to deliver that content consistently over time
Yeah.
for a long period of time before you will build any audience.
Yeah, yeah, agree. And you can do consistently only if you love what you do. You
Yes.
can't go ahead without passion. It's almost impossible because you can suffer. If you do something for the sake of results, you suffer and can't overwork others, who love what they do. And Philip, I have my final question. Very important question for my audience. I think if someone has more questions, they will follow you to learn from you, from your social media accounts, YouTube, podcast, everywhere. But this question is important about your experience. What I found that when I cooperate with founders, co-founders, business owners, they usually wanna know the basic. If they don't know the basic, it's tough to get results. It's tough to cooperate with any expert without knowing the basic. It's like to lose weight. Yeah. If you want to lose weight, you need to learn why you need to eat healthy food, to drink water, to train hard. Yeah. It's the same with personal branding, with anything. But you need to understand the basic how it works. So I want to ask you, forget about your experience, forget about your YouTube podcast, about helping big companies, 500 Fortune companies. You started today, it's your first day in personal branding. What will you do if you do everything from scratch?
Well, before I answer that question, I'm going to share with your listeners something that will help them. And there's a
Okay.
tool that I developed called the Personal Brand Wheel, which is it's a proprietary tool that I developed, which helps you see and understand how you build a personal brand and all the different parts of that. And if you go to my website, philipvandusen.com/PBW for personal brand wheel, philipvandusen.com/PBW. You can download this tool. It's got instructions. It's got a bunch of questions. It'll lead you through it. It's a really great and insightful tool to help you see and understand all the moving parts that goes into building a personal brand. And if you have a personal brand already, it helps you evaluate what you've done and what you need to do.
Nice,
And so
nice.
to answer your question, personal branding has a lot of different parts. As you said, there's kind of the foundational elements, which is, your story, your mission, your value, establishing all those things that you have to understand about yourself. The next thing is your omnipresence. So where are you going to show up? What's your website? What's your brand design look like? What are the social platforms you on? And then the next step is engagement. How do you comment? How do you engage with your audience? And how do you then the fourth kind of quadrant is how do you document and share those transformations that you are creating? Because you deliver the content, you get engagement, and as people start to have their own transformations as a result of your content, you want to document and share those. So the very first thing that I think people need to do is they can do it in a chair by themselves with a little notepad. You have to figure out what's your story, what's your purpose, and what's your value. What are you bringing to the table? And then after you decide what your purpose and value is, what's your mission? Who are you going to help? And what are you going to help them do? A lot of people start producing content and they're not thinking about their key pillars of what it is they have and what they're going to deliver. And until you do that, you can't develop a really clear mission around what kind of content is going to serve that. So, like you were saying earlier in the podcast, how do you ideate around content? How do you come up with the ideas? All of the ideas of your content are driven by those foundational strategic elements. What's my personal story? What's my purpose? And what is the value that I'm bringing to the table?
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Philip, I'm going to follow you. I need more value. Guys, I recommend to anyone to follow Philip on YouTube, subscribe to YouTube, to follow on other platforms. Tell the best way how to keep learning from you, how to reach out to you, how to follow you.
Sure. On YouTube, I'm Philip VanDusen, easy to find. On podcasts, I have the Brand Design Masters podcast. But if you search my name, I also pop up. But the easiest place to go is to go to philipvandusen.com, and all of my stuff is there.
Nice, guys. You can find links in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again for the time. So valuable, fun. I love it. I'm going to follow. It's a big mistake, guys, if you don't follow Philip, because you can see a lot of value. Okay, love you. See you.